This is Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Hello, I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue, media specialist for the LFA. In Minding the Forest, we talk about forestry. Forest landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers, such as lumber, paper, and pellet mills, all play an important role in the conservation and management of forests for the important renewable natural resource it is. Managed forests offer more for wildlife and water protection, so the LFA advocates to keep forests as forests. This episode of Minding the Forest is sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office, or you can find them online at firstsouthland.com. Trey Maxwell and his wife Melinda were honored as the LFA's Outstanding Louisiana Logger in 2023. Now, in this episode, we get a chance to get to know him a little bit better and talk about the logging business. We have with us Trey and Melinda Maxwell. They are the Outstanding Louisiana Logger for 2023. Welcome. Glad to have y'all here.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Thank you.
Well, it was fun last year. We got to visit. We got the story in our magazines and had a chance to go to the annual meeting and receive that honor. We're going to get to that in just a little bit, but first of all, let's just introduce you guys to the folks who are listening to the podcast. Trey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Trey Maxwell from Sarepta, Louisiana. Just forestry business is all I know. Been a logger all my life. It feels like it. I mean, at a young age, I got in it, and here I am. And that's really all I know. Played a little baseball in college, and
well, I was about to say you were quite the ball player. You played for college.
A little ball, and then after ball, we got married in 94, and I worked, I don't know how many years, a couple years in service station business, and I don't know, 90.
With your family.
Yeah, with my family. And the Maxwell side of it owned a store and a service station. I did a couple of years of that and knew that wasn't for me, and been in timber business ever since.
So, Linda, how about you? You from Sarepta as well?
I'm from Sarepta.
Okay.
Like Trey said, we got married in 94. Been married 30 years this year. And July the 28th of 1996 is when we got into business. So it's been a while.
That's a good memory, a specific day.
Yes, I remember it.
Was it a tough day to?
It turned out to be a tough day. Yes, It did. It turned out to be a tough day, but that was the first day we started.
Okay, we're gonna get back to that. So hang on to that thought.
Okay.
Trey, I did want to talk a little bit baseball with you because that was something. You were a rising star in high school, were you not?
Well, me and my brother, we love sports. I mean, we was big time into football. He actually was a wide receiver, and I was a quarterback. We've always thrown to each other. I was always the thrower, and he was always the catcher in football and baseball. And so, yes, we was very sports oriented, and then our daddy had told us that I actually wanted to play quarterback in college, other than the pitcher. Trent actually wanted to do receiver at Tech. He was interviewed pretty strong down there at Tech for a wide receiver. But Daddy had told us we needed to go with baseball. So it worked out pretty good. Trent was drafted by the Seattle Mariners as a catcher, and I went on to play college ball as a pitcher. So it worked out pretty good for us on that. But like I say, everybody's got chapters in their life, and we got through that chapter. It was time to move on to the next chapter, and that was marrying and kids and a family and working. Jobs and et cetera. So we did have a little chapter in our lives that was a lot of baseball. It was baseball day in, day out, 365. So,
what was the point that you said, it's time to hang up the cleats, and lay down the mitt and go ahead and get to work?
Well, we had a game there in Ruston, Louisiana, at Tech, and I was pitching, and I don't know. When we was in high school, we was 30-0. We never lost a game. And so when I got a bad attitude, I'll be the first to admit I got a bad attitude when it comes to winning and losing. I have got to win, period. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but we got to Tech there, and we had a good team, and we won a lot of games, but we lost some that I didn't think we should lose. And this particular game, I'd pitched 9 innings, and we lost 3-1. And Melinda was obviously my girlfriend then, was there watching us play, and we had a little routine. When I got through pitching and the game was over, Mom and Daddy and Melinda would gather up at the parking lot, and we'd go eat in Ruston after the game. Well, we walked out there in the parking lot, and I don't even know what day it was, but anyhow, that's irrelevant. I said, I'll see y'all in the morning. I'm coming home. And they looked at me like, what, And so Mama looked at me and she said,
she wasn't very happy.
She said, what'd you say, Trey? I said, well, I'm coming home. And she said, Sydney's my daddy. She said, Sydney, you better tell him he can't stay down. No, he's grown, Judy. I can't make him stay in school. Well, long story short, the next morning, I packed my bags at Louisiana Tech and Cotton Valley bound. We lived in Cotton Valley at the time, and I come to Cotton Valley, and going back to the chapter of life, I told Melinda and my mom and them, I said, I'm ready to start the next chapter of my life, and baseball is not it. And the reason why I said that is because we had 3 games. The season was almost over. We had 3 road games left to go to USL and Lafayette, and the season had been over with. Mm-hmm. I didn't have it in me to make that trip. I should have had. I'm not condoning what I've done by any means. But with that being said, I didn't like to lose. And I just couldn't bear the fact that we might get beat another time. And so I come home, and here we are almost 30 years later.
So you worked in a store for a while?
When I come home, I like I say, my daddy, the Maxwells had a service station for, 3 or 4 generations in Cotton Valley back in the 1940s and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Old stuff. And so I just went up there and, barely making enough money to buy a Coke. But I wasn't playing baseball and wasn't nobody beating me.
We was happy though.
And we was just as happy as 2 pigs in the sunshine.
We got married September of 94.
The same year.
Same summer. I come home, and I guess it was probably May. I come home in May of that year, and I didn't really go about it right by asking to get married or none of that.
He didn't. He still hasn't asked me to marry him. Still hasn't.
I put Melinda in my little truck I had, and
pulled up to
and my grandma had an old house that was vacant. And I pulled up there to that house, pulled in the driveway, and I said, how would you like to live right there? And she put 2 and 2 together and said she'd love it.
Yes,
all right.
And I did. So he still hadn't asked me to marry him, but
so,
he didn't get down on one knee. Let's just say that.
Well, but you've stuck with him all this time.
I have.
Well, one thing about it, I didn't paint a pretty picture. It's who I am,
that is,
and she learned that, and I think that's why I'm not the real romantic, mushy guy, and she's good with that. And
that's right.
And hey, it worked. It worked.
Were you surprised when he left baseball?
A little bit, yes. Mm-hmm. I was, but I knew his heart wasn't in it anymore.
Yeah,
you could tell. So, it was time to move on.
Well, apparently his heart was with you.
It must have been.
See?
It must have been.
Look on the bright side. There you go.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, when you get up into the college level, it's 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Even in fall, you're practicing or doing something 7 days a week concerning baseball, and it's good if you love it. And I did. I loved it. I ain't no doubt about it.
Yes.
I wanted to do it 7 days a week for a long time, but I don't care what you do for 7 days a week. At some point in time, it turns into be a job. And it went from, I still loved it the day I quit, but it turned out to be from very fun to a job.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew my next chapter was coming up pretty quick.
Well, 365 days a year is about how many days you work in logging, isn't it?
That's exactly
Amen.
right.
So it prepared you well.
Amen.
And what, of course, your pay in college ball is you doing what you love. But I had even made the comment, now that you said that, I said, if I'm going to work like this, I want to get paid a little bit, And so that's another, method to my thinking there.
Yeah.
If I was going to do something and put that much time in it, I'd like to get a little return. And not saying I wouldn't get any return, but it wasn't the kind of return that you was wanting. You put that kind of time in it, that goes back to what I'm saying. You want to win. And when you wasn't winning all of them, you
Trey
felt
wants
like your
to win,
time was
though,
wasted.
at everything.
It don't matter if it's picking
Trey
up
is
sticks.
so
I'm going to try to
competitive.
beat you.
Yes.
I mean,
he has been that.
if we thumb wrestle, I'm going to give you 100%. I promise
Trey.
you.
I could care less. I mean, just okay. I don't even try. I'm like, okay, well, you can win. That's fine with me, but not Trey.
Yeah, I'm the first to admit, though, it's not a good. I guess it is a good trait, but it's got its pros and cons.
Yeah.
It's got its pros and cons.
In business, that drive, that desire to win, you want to win the contract, you want to win the timber buy.
And I tell you, that's why I think
job.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's correct. And I think that's why the logging has been, pretty good to me. It's even hard to say, but my mother went to the bank and told them do not loan me a dime to buy my first log truck. Now, in her defense, she's trying to take care of me. That's what she was trying to do. She was being a mom and trying to take care of me. We didn't want him to drive a log truck, and they didn't want me
because we were scared. And here I am with dates again. October the 28th, 1994. No, 96. 3 months to the day that we went into business, Trey rolled his log truck.
Oh,
yeah.
So you started out driving a log truck?
Yes, sir. Started out with my own log truck.
One truck. We got a loan for him to get his first log truck. And but when our baby was 3 weeks old, we had a 3-week-old baby.
When everybody's barking in your ear telling you don't do it, you can't make it, you can't. Well, when you want to win real bad, that fuels that fire.
Yeah.
And so I knew then, I said, if I don't do nothing else, I'm fixing to prove somebody wrong, that I can.
And Trey has a drive like nobody that I've ever met. His brain never quits, thinking, how can I get ahead? How can I get ahead? I got to think about tomorrow, next week, next month, always. And thank the Lord, because it takes it in this,
Yeah. Why logging? I mean, I know in North Louisiana, there's lots of logging everywhere. Beautiful pine trees, lots of land. In the rural areas of Louisiana, it's probably the king industry.
Yes.
But, why logging?
I'm naturally an outdoor guy. An inside job never was even on the list. And my mother, her brothers was in logging. She had 2 brothers that was in logging. My cousin, which is pretty close to the same age as me and him was pretty good friends. So growing up, I would watch, which would be his daddy, my uncle, in the logging. Well, when you're a junior high or high school kid, that's cool, boy. That's really neat, to see that. And, and Kevin Hicks is who I'm referring to, which was my cousin. He quit high school and bought a log truck and hauled for his daddy. At a young age.
Wow.
18, 19 years old, 20 years old. He was driving a log truck, hauling for his daddy 2-wheel Willamette, which is Weyerhaeuser now, but back then it was called Willamette. And I rode with him a few times. Well, you take a little old high school kid. He was actually a couple years older than me, but he quit school, and of course I didn't. And I'd go get in that log truck and ride with him, and I thought that was the coolest thing since sliced bread. I thought, man, this...
Yeah.
Here we are riding around in a big truck hauling logs. We think we somebody,
Yeah.
And so I would, in the summertime, which like I say, we played ball year round, but in the summertime, I'd go out there to their jobs. And of course, equipment was way more outdated than it is now. I mean, it the skidders was not air conditioned, and then it didn't matter because you didn't know any different. But I'd get in a skidder and skid a little bit and learn how and watch and pay attention. And the more I done it, I just thought it was. I said, man, this is the ticket here, boy. And as I got older, I knew that's what I want to try to do, and I've just stuck with it since. But basically, Mama's two brothers is the one that which they're both deceased now.
So how'd you transition from log truck driver to logger? How'd that get started?
Well, it goes back to the money situation and the greedy and all that mess. I was hauling logs with my Uncle Delane and Kevin them, and he was getting part of the money. And I'm no dummy. I mean, I didn't make an A in math, but I can do simple math. And the more I figured it and the more I watched it, I told Melinda, I said, I think I need to get on the cutting and banking side of this too, instead of just the trucking. Now, I got up to, I think we'd got up to 7 or 8 trucks there at one time with just me trucking by myself. And that's a full-time job by itself. Don't misunderstand
I
me.
imagine so.
But I decided that I wanted, since I had the trucks and had the capability of doing the trucking, that I wanted to get into the cutting and banking side of the logging, and just to, add another feather to your hat and another dime to the bucket, is what I had intentions. And it worked out, but that was my motive, was just to slowly ease into it and be the full circle. And now today, sitting here talking to you, I got my own cutting and banking jobs. I got my own trucking. I do all my wood buying. I have all my, I'm the full circle.
Wow.
I don't depend on anybody. I say that the mills, I do, right. But as far as making my circle go around, I do my own timber buying, trucking, logging, the whole 9 yards.
So I take it your mom didn't go to the bank the next time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
She brags on him quite a bit.
But it
really,
days.
well,
she's very proud of him, as she should be, both of her boys. So.
Well, the flip side to all this is it didn't come overnight. Yeah. I mean, it didn't come overnight, and it took a long time and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of nights laying there wondering, did I make the right choice?
A lot of praying.
It's been a bunch of that. But, I don't know what business you could do and not do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just timber business.
When times get tough, though, that's when Trey really armors up, and he's like, I'm fixing to hit it harder.
He
does. He does. He goes at it even harder.
Well, I've always made jokes, and I say it as a joke, but I mean it. Sometimes you got to separate the men from the boys. Yeah. And I make them jokes, and I say that to my kids, my son-in-law and son, and jokingly, like when it's raining straight down and it's wet as a sock out there and we can't find nothing to work, I said, this is what separates the men from the boys right here, And I'll say that jokingly, but it's really... That's really right.
Really
how bad do you want it? Do you want to go to the house and do you want it to just let it dry up and quit raining? Or do you want to back your ears and find something that'll work? And it may take 2 days, 3 days, a week of driving and talking and knocking on doors and calling and talking to consultants to get one little track. But I'm willing to do all that to get one little track.
Move a job and get there and decide that it ain't going to work. So, guess what? You got to hit it again and move the next day somewhere else.
Yeah. But you keep going. That
He
drive that you learned from sports,
he does
right.
it.
You applied it to your business.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
sir.
Linda, what's been your role through these transitions?
Everything. I have. If Trey told me to do it, I had to do it. It didn't matter if it was hooking up to the pole trailer, driving the big truck, pulling the welding machine. First time I pulled the welding machine, I didn't know nothing. Nothing. And never drove a track, never done any of that. And Trey told me, he hooked me up to the welding machine, and he said, follow me. It was storming. Well, he didn't tell me that when you're pulling something heavy behind the truck that, it would push you. So I get to this stop sign, stopping like a normal person. Well, it just pushes me out into the middle of the road.
Oh my God.
Thank the Lord I didn't get hit by nothing, but it's just trial and error and just whatever's Trey told me to do, helping him pick up 400-pound springs from a log truck and pipe and just, you name it. I've been the secretary the whole time. But I've had to do a lot of other stuff.
Well, sometimes the business necessitates that, and you have to jump up and do it.
Yes.
So while he's running around looking for jobs, you're in the background taking care of things.
I joked one time I even had to go get one of our log truck drivers out of jail because they stopped him in our log truck and he had not paid a ticket that he got on his own, so they took him straight to jail. And,
oh, man.
There I am. Call me, go get him, pay his fine. I said, okay. So I go to the jailhouse. That's just one thing. I mean, we could write a book.
I bet you could.
Yes. So.
What's been the most difficult part of all that, Trey?
I guess like a lot of loggers, we could sit here and cry and moan and groan and say how bad it is, because I think that's the normal for everybody. But it has been some trying times. But I think the most difficult for me is because I do the flip side of the guys that don't buy their own timber is they got somebody that's out doing what I'm doing, beating the doors down by, or working for Weyerhaeuser or some of them companies, the timber supplied to them. One of the hardest things, I think it gives me a little bit of an edge as far as making $1 or $2 more, but I buy my own timber, and I think it's not near as easy as it sounds. Yeah. It's very difficult to buy good timber, and, I've got 30-something employees that depends on me to make the right decision. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty stressful. When it's, we've just got out of a very, very wet. I mean, if this spring is not one of the wettest springs on record, it has got to be real close.
Yeah. I think we're 13, 14 inches ahead of where we should be this time.
Gotta be. And when you encounter times like that nobody can do anything about, you just got to deal with it. And I get that. But when you encounter them times and you buy your own timber and you got 30-something guys wake up every morning looking at you to keep them,
check coming,
some money coming in. And when I say 30-something people, that's not counting their families. That could easily add up to 100 people. Yeah. If you count their families, that's depending on Trey to make the right decision and to do good and to keep them a check coming in. They got little kids, and I guess I don't know how many years ago it was, but I laid down one night and I got to adding that up, and boy, that's very stressful. Very stressful.
Takes some hefty shoulders to
tell
take
you,
that on. It
was several years ago, I thought, it ain't bad. I ain't got, at the time I had 40-something employees, almost 50.
Yeah, we got to 48.
We had 48 employees, and I laid down one night and I said, boy, that ain't 48 people. It dawned on me, hey, I'm not taking care of 48. That if they just had 2 or 3 people apiece in their family, you're looking at well over 100 people.
Yeah,
and lots of them's got young kids. And boy, that'll make you watch the ceiling fan go round and round for a little while before you go to sleep.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't know very many people who think about that.
Well, it's
from a business standpoint. Yep. Yes, you're trying to make it for your your family. You're trying to make it for your family. Trying to help your family sustain, grow, and all.
Yes, sir.
But you also have many other families that are reliant upon what you do,
without a doubt. And that, I mean, like I say, it's very stressful. And so when you get the times like I'm saying that we just come out of, and when I say just, I mean like a week ago.
Yeah,
I mean it was raining a week ago here.
Yeah.
But with that being said, when you get that kind of rain for that many weeks and that many months in a row, Mister, let me tell you, it'll get your attention and it will work on you.
But that's the times. I mean, I've seen it even in baseball. When the times get tough, that's when Trey pushes harder. Mm-hmm. I mean, he really does.
Yeah.
He don't just, sit down and be like, well, and I have told him, I'm like, Trey, there's nothing you can do. Just, breathe for a minute and, it'll pass.
I never have a rain out. I do not have a rain out.
Really?
It can be raining straight down. At 7 o'clock in the morning, it can be raining so hard you can't see out the window. I'm getting up and leaving and going to do something pertaining to timber or timber business.
Yes.
And that's just the way I'm built.
And that is the truth.
I'm not staying at the house.
He does not. You will not catch him in the house in the daytime. Makes me mad. I'm like, it's raining, Trey. Let's just, come in and watch this baseball game. Just come in and well, I don't sit down come in the house in the daytime, and he doesn't. That's the truth.
If the sun's up, he's doing something.
Yes, sir.
It don't matter if the sun's up or it's raining. He's going to be out there I'm going to look at a track. I'm going to move equipment. I'm going to, talk to this landowner. It's something every day.
Yeah.
And I have learned to, sometimes my feelings get hurt, but it's okay because, I know that's Trey.
Right.
That's who I married.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that drive has worked for many other things as well. When I had a chance to visit your house, it's really, really nice out there. You have, I'm trying to think of the right word for it. I'm sorry, I can't, but a roping pen.
A roping arena. Yes, sir.
A roping arena. So then you have trained your boys to do that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We just roped 2 nights ago out there. Yep. But yes, we do find a little time. Of course, there's lights out there, so we don't have. We can turn on the lights and play a little bit. Yeah, sure can.
But you've done that. You've used that arena for the benefit of others as well. Have you not?
I have loved doing that. We don't. It ain't something we do every day or every week by no means, but we do. Like you mentioned, we have done benefit ropings and. Give back to others if we can. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's the thought that counts.
Yeah. Well, the drive that you have for business, that you had for baseball, is also, well, it seems to me as though it's a drive that you have for your community as well.
Yes, sir. It's not a very big community around here. Everybody knows everybody.
And everybody helps everybody.
It's no secret. So if there's somebody in need of help around here, you'd be surprised that people will step up. There is still good people in the world. Yes. I promise you.
Lots of good people in our area.
That's encouraging.
Yeah,
yes.
That really is. What would you say is your most rewarding event that you've had out there?
Well, I can't put my finger on just one, but I guess the all around success. I can go, and Melinda will tell you, I can go within 100-mile radius of this place, and I promise you, I don't care where we walk, I'm going to know somebody. I don't care what business we walk in, what door we darken. I'm going to know somebody sitting there. And it's 90. A lot of it may be from baseball, but a lot of it is also from the timber business. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about it is it's the good of the timber business, not the bad. The word of mouth is pretty dangerous. It can be good or bad. And luckily, I'd say 99% of mine's pretty good. And so when I see somebody and they know me, I know I'm not fixing to get a butt chewing, over it. I thought, well, this guy probably's so we'll sit down and we'll talk and everything's good. So one of the things that I like the most is I can go, a pretty large area around here where I live.
And another thing in this business, Trey has made some really good friends. Mm-hmm. He really has. People that help him and he helps. And I love seeing that.
You've experienced the Outstanding Louisiana Logger over the past year. You were awarded that honor in last August. As we look forward to this coming August, you'll be on the other end now.
Yes,
You'll
sir.
be presenting it to the new Logger of the Year, which we'll reveal at another time.
Right.
How are you going to approach that? What are you looking forward to in that arena?
Everything that happens first is obviously a new experience, and it's obviously the first time I've experienced this.
Like this podcast.
And like this podcast, for an example. Yes. And so I didn't really know, you hear about it and you hear about it and you hear about Logger of the Year, and y'all at LFA do a really good job.
Thank you.
And it's very, you put a lot of time and work in it, and you can tell, it's not taken lightly. It's pretty serious to y'all as it is to us. And with that being said, it's a lot of work to do what y'all, like that thing that, the last year at Lake Charles.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time and effort to put that together. And you don't realize that until you go there and you witness it for yourself. Nice. I'd heard about that thing, a lot, and slough it off and then think, when you go to it and you actually see it, you're like, man, these guys they're for real. They're serious about this. Yeah. And so, the year that I have spent doing this has been very thankful and very rewarding, and I'm excited to pass it on to the next guy. I hope he has as much respect for it as I do.
Well, thank you. It is a lot of work.
It is.
We'll admit that, but it's a lot of fun too.
Yep.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, you get to do what you love, and that shows. Y'all really like it, and you can tell. Y'all do a good job.
So what's for the future for Trey and Melinda?
Well, I hope the Lord lets us be married for 30 more years plus, hopefully. I don't know. I don't think Trey plans on staying in this many, many more years. He can answer that better than me.
Well, I love it. I it's a love-hate relationship. It's but like I say, what business is not?
Right.
But I do, at the end of the day, if I wasn't doing this, I would probably be a little sad,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have to do it at this level as I get older, running 5 crews, and I think we got 14 trucks on the road right now. I don't have to do it at that level. I've got a son and a son-in-law coming behind me that I hope one day carries a torch for a little while longer. And, but the future for me, I would like to scale down. I don't want to get completely out, but I would like to scale down and pass the torch to them and buy timber for them. Me just ride around with an ink pen and a pickup truck would suit me fine. And I kind of like to play with cows.
Yeah.
I think as I get older, I'd like to kind of go the cow pasture some instead of the logging job.
Do you see yourself maybe helping coach some grandchildren as they come up, play a little ball?
I said I was a while back, but I went and watched a few games back when my son was playing and my daughter was playing. Mm-hmm. And the old conversation that we had at the beginning of this about the competition and competitive, I can't do it. No. I mean, they be playing a T-ball game out there that at the end of the day actually means nothing, but the little kids is having fun. And hey, when I seen them not get somebody out, I'd have to turn around and walk off. And I thought, well, I can see right now, I can scratch it. I actually went to college and majored in physical education. Thought I was going to be a coach.
Yeah, and the Lord answered that prayer. Trey would, no. He would have been a good one. Don't get me wrong. Trey would have been a really good coach, but the parents would have not liked him.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I actually was playing a co-ed softball game in college at Louisiana Tech, mm-hmm. and me and my brother got kicked out. And we may set a record here. I don't know. We might have been the only two that's ever been kicked out of an intramural co-ed softball game at college. We got kicked off the place because we were just, I don't know. It's
too intense.
It's just too intense. And we took it to another level, and we took it to a level that they didn't like, evidently, and they told us not to come back. Now, I don't advertise that everywhere I go, but point being, I knew then my coaching days was probably slim and none.
Yeah. And thank the Lord, our kids, they didn't do, and that hurt Trey's feelings for a long time that he didn't have, his son was not in sports. It mm-hmm. hurt his feelings. And I finally got him to understand, which that kept a lot of fights from happening at the Maxwell house. Rides home with Gunner in the car, that the Lord fixed that for us. So
just wasn't his interest to play sports.
I might have been partly to blame. We'd be out in the yard going, so-called play pitch like all parents and kids do.
Yeah.
And Gunner, I don't know, he might have been 8 or 10 years old at the time. We was going to play pitch, and I'd throw the ball to him. He'd step to the side to catch it, and he would always
it came in at 100 miles an hour.
He would always step to his right to catch it, and he'd catch. Of course, he's catching it with his left hand. And so what I would do was throw it a little further to his right so he couldn't step away from it. Well, then I did that, and he caught it right in front of his face because he couldn't step far enough to the right to get it away from him. And so when he caught it, he threw the glove down and he went in. He didn't want to play catch no more. And to this day, the kid's 20-something years old, and I can't get him to play catch with me. And so
he was just afraid of your fastball. He always said, because if I was throwing it to him, if he was catching it pretty easy, then I would throw it a little harder, and I'd throw it a little harder, and I'd throw it a little harder. And then in his words,
Daddy, you make this not fun.
Wow.
And so,
back to the work.
Yeah.
Rather than the fun.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
Trey wanted him to, if he was going to do it, you're going to be good at it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, you're going to be good at it. And it worked out good because Gunner didn't want to do it, and I was so happy.
But Gunner does have interest in the logging business.
a little. The son-in-law loves it more than.
Yes.
Like, for example, today as we're sitting here talking, Gunner is baling hay. That's his. He wants to cut. He's the rancher type. Mm-hmm. He wants to do the cows, the horses, the hay, and Brock, my son-in-law. I think he sees where more of the money's at on the logging side.
Yeah.
But he's got a good work ethic. Both these kids work good. They got real good work ethics.
They do.
Blessed to have them. But the son-in-law, he's more of the logger side than the son. It's just the way it goes. You know.
Yeah. That's where the interest is for those young men.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you see for the logging business? I know there's a lot of ups and downs. You talked a lot about, some things that are beyond loggers' control, like the weather, the extremely wet spring that we've had and into early summer. Loggers always are fighting things like insurance and externals that are part of the business. You have to deal with it, but it is a challenge. What do you see for the logging business in the future? Just
the other day, we went and looked at some logging jobs, for this year's 2024 Logger of the Year, and the common conversation that we had with every one of them, and I had told a guy from the Forest Service before we ever even left to meet these guys, I said, you're going to hear a lot of the same conversations. I said, it's going to be regarding nobody's making any money right now. I said, due to the insurance being so high, the equipment notes, inflation is real now. People like to talk about inflation over the years, but this particular year, in my opinion, is more real than any. And I've been buying equipment and trucks for almost 30 years. I see it. And the equipment notes and the price of this equipment and the price of the trucks and what it costs to run them and the insurance that goes along with it and the rates we're working for today is, and what I'm telling you now, if any other logger listens to this, they're going to be shaking their head, because they all say the same thing. And that was a common denominator when we went and looked the other day at these logging jobs for the 2024 Logger of the Year. These jobs was an hour apart. None of them heard their conversation. It was almost verbatim, word for word, when we went to these jobs. So it is a serious matter. It is getting better. It is brought, as y'all know, the legislator is working real strong. It used to be just talked about and that was it. Now we're getting actions. Mr. Buck and some of them people are really working strong for us. I watch the news every night. They talking about it in Baton Rouge. That's a good thing to be talked about if we can just carry it to the next step and get something done. But the logging, I think, is going to be in the next few years better than it's. I'm not going to say it can't get any worse. I'll never say that,
right?
Because it can. But I would like to think that in the next 8 to 10, everything's a cycle. We all know that,
right?
And in this particular cycle, I think we're trending upward right now. I really do. On our end up here at Northwest Louisiana, we've got new mills coming on. Several of them should be coming on at one time. It's some bright spots. It really is.
What advice would you have? Because a lot of younger folks are listening to podcasts nowadays. Maybe they'll catch this one. If you have someone who is looking to get into the logging business or newly into the logging business, what advice would you have for them?
Well, I just had right before you got here, believe it or not, I had a phone call with a guy talking about wanting to get in the logging business. It's a good friend of mine, and he's actually cutting for me right now, but he's working for the guy that's cutting for me. And my son-in-law is looking to get into logging, but my advice was be patient. Let this thing, the COVID, after we come out of COVID, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but they're taking advantage of the prices. The prices got jacked up during COVID because their so-called reason was because of availability. Take a John Deere skidder for an example. 2 or 3 years ago, it may be 4, 5, 6 months for me to get one if I wanted one today. Now that's changed. Today I could get one today, but the prices did not change. They jacked the prices up during COVID because of the availability.
Right.
And that might have not been all the reason, but it was a large reason why but the problem is the COVID's went away, but the prices have not. They're still high. And so what my advice to the young guys was just be patient, let this thing cycle through, and maybe good days is ahead.
Can I answer that as a logger's wife?
That was my next question. Yes.
Okay. Well, I've learned a lot in the last 28 years. Mm-hmm. And I would say as a logger's wife, be patient, pray a lot, back your husband. Because there was many, many years that I thought I had to throw my input in there. Trey knows. And I had to voice my opinion, which, Trey, we don't need to do that. That's scary because I'm not a gambler like Trey. I don't want to take risks. And which Trey's not a gambler, but he takes risk.
Right.
He pushes the envelope. And one day he finally turned the light bulb on for me. He said, Melinda, I am working as hard as I can work. If we go out, we just go out. And that really was an aha moment for me that I was like, shut up, Melinda. Just, let him do his thing. He's got this. He don't need your input. And that's what I would tell, support them. Mm-hmm. Support them because they need that. Because the struggle is hard enough without coming home to a wife that's got to give her opinion. Yes. So I learned that, and I have done better.
Yes, you have. You've done
yes, I learned to just be quiet.
After a few knockdown drag-outs, we got it figured out.
I'm sorry for that.
It wasn't that bad, but...
No, it wasn't bad, but, I did learn just hush, Melinda. He's got this. He does not need your help.
Well, he does need your help in some things.
He did need my help, but it wasn't for the help I thought that I
needed the positive help, not the negative help.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And he put it, when he said that day, I was like, he's so right, Melinda.
Y'all seem very at ease with one another. So over the years, it seems like maybe a disagreement or two has worked out to your favor, both in the business and your relationship.
Well, it's been some trying times, but I'll tell people all the time, we've never spent a night apart. We've never left. It's not been one of them deals where we split up a week or any of that. There's never been any of that. If we've had our little differences during the day, when nighttime comes and we go to bed, next day, hey, it's a good day.
You say, for better or worse, that's what you go in it. It's for better or worse. And you're going to have better days and you're going to have worse days. But the sun's going to come up tomorrow, Lord willing. And, we love each other and you just move forward.
Trey and Melinda Maxwell, Outstanding Louisiana Loggers for 2023. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time. Like I said earlier, y'all do a really good job and dedicated to what you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Mind of the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. This episode of Mind of the Forest was sponsored by First South Farm Credit. First South is your premier rural lender. With over 100 years financing timber and agriculture, they have the expertise you're looking for when financing rural property. If you're looking to purchase or refinance land, call your local First South Farm Credit office, or you can find them online at firstsouthland.com. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry and the LFA and its programs, and how you can be part of an organization that supports landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers in the state, go to laforestry.com. You can send comments or suggestions to me by email at jzeringue@laforestry.com. That's jzeringue@laforestry.com. Or check out the show notes for our contact information. You also can subscribe to Mind of the Forest on your favorite podcast app and be sure to tap the notifications button. That way you'll know when the next podcast drops each month. And we thank you for doing that. Remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're Mind of the Forest for you.